How's it going, everybody? My name is Justin and welcome to the BTR Garage. Today we're going to be continuing some upgrades for my 2002 Ford F-250 Super Duty. We're going to be replacing the OEM stock stereo head unit with a brand new multimedia head unit with smartphone integration, Bluetooth capabilities, and a number of other features. And we're also going to be adding a new backup camera to the truck. Obviously, this 16-year-old truck does not have a backup camera, so we're going to add that as well that integrates into the multimedia head unit. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got and then get started with the installations. So what we have here first off is the head unit. This is a Sony XAV AX100 multimedia head unit. Lots of cool features, Apple CarPlay capable, Android Auto capable, has an input for a backup camera and a number of other things as well. And we have our backup camera by Optics. So this is basically a license plate mounted backup camera. You can see there is the backup camera mount bar. It comes with the cabling to run into the cab and an RCA connection to connect to your head unit. And then we have an assortment of other parts and pieces, a harness for the truck. This is specific to the F-250 and allows us to connect the new head unit straight into the truck's harness without any special wiring. And this I actually got through Crutchfield.com. They'll actually build these wire harnesses for you, specific to your truck, and they've got some notes and things on the back here. And then the other stuff is just mounting hardware for the head unit into the dash, and then the tools to remove the double DIN unit in the stock truck. So here's a quick look at the Sony XAV AX100 head unit. Obviously entirely touchscreen except for a few buttons here and then the volume knob. Very nice and slick unit. Should look good once it gets in the truck. What we're gonna do before that though is actually start with the reverse camera. And this is a look at the reverse camera here. So the camera obviously in the center there. And then this will slide in and out to fit the license plate. It looks like it, actually this might be the right size actually. So what we'll do is get this thing wired up first in the back of the truck. We have to tap into the reverse lights of the truck so that the camera comes on when the truck is in reverse. We'll have to add a ground and maybe a couple other things as well, and then run the wire the length of the truck up into the front, and we got to find an entry point into the truck on where we can bring the wires into the cab. Usually there's a little harness that goes from one of the other systems in the truck that we can run the wires from this through to get into the cab and then under the dash and into the radio ultimately to get things hooked up. The wiring for the backup camera is pretty straightforward. You have these two red wires that will attach to the positive reverse light wire on your truck. The black wire is of course going to go to a ground, and then the length of the wire that goes under the truck, which is all bundled up over here. And then this is the wire that will bring into the cab, and that's just an RCA cable that attaches to the RCA input for your backup camera on your stereo head unit. And then this wire also goes to a positive trigger wire on the head unit so that it knows when your truck is in reverse. On this particular backup camera, all of this stuff is documented on the back in pretty clear and legible instructions, which makes it pretty easy. The hard part really is just going to be finding out what wire is the reverse wire in the truck. Now, the easy way to find your reverse light wire is to simply come over to your truck, pull the tail light off, figure out which one is your reverse light. In this case, it's the bottom one. That would be your white or clear lights. And then take a look at the wires and see which one is the reverse wire. Obviously, one of them is going to be the black ground, and then the other is a black with a pink tracer or a pink stripe on it in this case. So now it's just a matter of getting underneath the truck, finding out where that wire harness goes to, and then tapping into that black wire with the pink tracer on it. Then we'll have the power for the backup camera. We can hook it up to a ground source anywhere on the back of the truck and then run the wire all the way to the front of the truck. Let's go ahead and get started on that and then get this wiring into the cab. Here's the camera mocked up in position. Obviously we'll have the license plate over it when it's all said and done. I'll go check out the wiring on the underside. Underneath the truck, I just pulled the reverse light wire out of the loom. So the black with the pink tracer is right up in there. We'll go ahead and splice into that and then add the grounding wire to an existing ground, which is up in the frame rail up there. Now, as you saw from the pictures, I actually ended up soldering in the wires from the backup camera into the reverse light on the truck, so the black with the pink wire. It makes for a cleaner installation. It is a little bit more difficult. If you don't know how to solder, it's totally fine to use wire splices or the crimp style splices. I just didn't have any that were small enough for the little wire that is on the camera wiring. So now that everything is soldered up, I tidied it all up with electrical tape so it's nice and neat. We're gonna run the wire to the front of the truck. I'll show you where it comes out into the cabin. Once the wire is under the truck, you wanna pull the trim pieces off of the front of the car on the inside, lift up the carpet, and on this F250 Super Duty, you can see where the harness comes in from the underside. We'll basically punch a little hole in the grommet to press our wire through from the backup camera. We'll see what it looks like on the underside. And our view from underneath. You can see we have our cable run from the back of the truck. I just followed this harness all the way towards the back to run the wire. And we're gonna punch a little hole in that grommet to get the RCA cable pushed through. And here's what it looks like with our wire punched through the grommet. I used a little bit of silicone sealant just to seal up the hole a little bit better. All right, now that the rear view camera wire is run, we can start the fun stuff, installing the actual radio into the dash in the truck. We gotta start obviously by taking out the OEM radio. I got a pair of these double DIN remover tools that we use on this particular truck to get the radio out. So let's jump inside. We'll start taking things apart and unplugging the stock head unit. All right, so we have our double DIN removal tool, just this little metal U-shaped device here. There's holes in the head unit where we can stick those into, kind of push until they click, and then should be able to pull the head unit out. All right, so finally got the thing wiggled out of there. It seemed like the trick was to pull out on the brackets really hard. Then it finally came loose. Now we should be able to pull it out and disconnect cables from the back. Just a couple harnesses, or I should say one harness, and then the antenna. There we go. Now with the radio out, we can go ahead and start modifying the sub dash. On my F250, I actually have to shave away a portion of the dash hole, or the dash opening where the radio goes, in order for the new head unit to fit. It comes with instructions with the mounting kit that I have. It tells you what to do, and I'm going to show you what exactly we need to shave away here. So this upper lip section right here needs to be cut away, not the side pieces, but just that upper lip section, and then the lower lip section down here on the bottom needs to be shaved away as well. See if I can get better light in there. You can see how there's a lip on the top and on the bottom. Both of those need to be cut away, and then our new radio will fit. I'll be using a Dremel tool with a little cutaway blade on it to cut away the plastic. So again, we're going to be cutting away the top section, and then the bottom section. Obviously you want to be super careful when doing this. We're going to go ahead and get started. Once we have the bulk of the material removed, we're going to grab some flat files and start shaving down the upper edges and the bottom edge just to kind of make things a little bit more neat. And then what we can do after this is grab our head unit and make sure it fits in there. Okay, both the bottom and the top sections are notched out. We don't have that lip up there or on the bottom. We might need to take a little more off the bottom, I'm not sure, but now it's time to test fit the new head unit. So we have our new Sony XAV AX100 head units. We have no mounting brackets or anything on the side. It's just the bare head unit. We want to make sure it fits into the hole before we mount anything permanently in place, and it looks like there's plenty of room. I have the room on the top and the room on the bottom, it looks like, so I think that should be pretty good. What we need to do is grab the mounting kit and attach it to the head unit itself now. Now, before I mount everything permanently in place as well, I'm tying everything together, the wiring for most of the components. The backup camera in particular, I wanted to make sure it works before I stick it into the truck. So I wired everything up temporarily. As you can see, that's my backup camera wiring. Down here goes into the back of the head unit, into the camera port. And as you'll see, we'll start it up, I'll show you that the backup camera works. So the head unit's powering up. So as you can see, everything worked great. When you put the truck into reverse, the backup camera automatically comes on the head unit. The other thing you can do, and I thought about doing this, was instead of wiring the backup camera into the rear reverse lights on the truck, you can power it into a power source that is always on. That way you can turn on your camera at any time. There's actually a rear view camera button on the front of the head unit that you can push. But when I push it on mine, because it's tied to the rear or the reverse brake light wire, it won't come on. It says there's no input, and that's because the camera's not powered on unless I put the truck into reverse. So there is an alternative if you want to wire it that way. I kind of wish I would have done that, but it's not a huge deal. It still works just fine when we're backing up the truck when we need it the most. Now that we have everything tested out and we know it works, I went ahead and ran the rest of the wiring through the underside of the dash. I ran the speaker for the Bluetooth speaker up into the top of the headliner on the top of the A-pillar here. So there's our speaker. We'll run the wire down the A-pillar, and these A-pillars just pop off with the pull of a hand, and it's routed down into the dash down here, and ultimately all of the wires are coming out through the hole where the head unit belongs. So we have our harness, the parking brake wire for the backup camera reverse light wire, my microphone wire, the backup camera video wire, and then I have a USB cable as well that hooks up to the head unit that will route in through the dash as well, so that it sticks out somewhere convenient, probably down here where we can access it with the phone. Other than using Bluetooth for audio, we can use the USB for the audio. So we're gonna go ahead and get things plugged in and get the head unit inserted into the dash. So I did run into some troubles getting the head unit mounted into the hole properly. I think this bottom portion where we had to take some material off earlier in the video, we had to take some off the top and off the bottom. I needed to take more off of the bottom to get it to fit. So we're gonna go ahead and plug everything back in, and hopefully everything snaps into place this time. So we have our antenna wire, our harness wire, backup camera video wire, and the microphone wire for the Bluetooth headset and audio. Make sure it's all good and snugged up. Once this thing is inserted, there's no taking it out, unfortunately. So you want to make sure you have all of your connections in place. There we go. I think it went. There it is. Nice. So that snapped in that time. So I did have to take more material off the bottom like I had mentioned. There is a gap filler that comes with the kit that we'll put on the bottom here in just a second. And here is that little gap filler piece. Basically follow your instructions and hopefully it snaps into place like they say it does. And there we are, the new dash units finally in place. Everything worked out pretty good. It was a little bit tricky getting that thing mounted in there. Alright everybody, that's gonna do it for this video. We finally got through installing the new backup camera and the new Sony XAV AX100 multimedia head unit into my 2002 Ford F-250. Both awesome upgrades and much needed compared to the OEM equipment or the non-existent OEM equipment in the case of the backup camera. And overall, not too difficult of a project. There were some snags along the way, nothing too crazy. I think the biggest thing I noticed was having to take out more material in the sub dash on that bottom section where I showed you guys. So if you're installing this on a Ford F-250 Super Duty, I think between the years 1999 and 2004, it is a pretty similar installation process. So hopefully this video will help you guys out. If you guys have any thoughts, comments, or suggestions, please leave them down below. Like always, I love to hear from you. Stay tuned for more good stuff coming up for the F-250. I got some surprises in the engine and exhaust departments. Stay fast out there. I'm checking out. Talk to you all next time.